it's been the learning part of it that's been the most excitement, but it's fun. They're hard problems, but you come together in these events and you are energized. You're finding this just great connections in, and you're solving problems, and you're using these great skills. And Jim Collins, who wrote Good to Great, wrote a little monograph called Good to Great for the Social Sector. And he said, here are the things these organizations need. You know, they need, okay, you have to have high quality committed talent. You have to have an ambitious mission with a clear strategy and an operating plan. You have to have excellent discipline in executing on your plan. You need sufficient investment capital, engaged investors, and success metrics to know if you're truly having the impact. Well, that's building a great organization, and these just happen to be nonprofits. That's what we do at SVPs. We build great organizations that happen to be nonprofits. So I'm going to share next 3 observations, kind of zooming back out, because I can't help myself. I'm kind of a meta thinker, of what's going on in the field. And I think for me, it's kind of, the first one's like a little, it's been the challenge. There have been so many points of light, so many brilliant organizations that are making such a difference. But together, the problems aren't being solved. We aren't having transformational change. And that's because we need system change. There is no other way to do it. And there's just, what if you saw the Ethiopian famine, 1984-85, and you said, I'm going to end poverty by raising money and giving it to food banks? What if you raised $376 million to do that? You had national acclaim. You were regarded as an absolute success. And poverty wasn't ending, and hunger wasn't ending. What do? Bill Shore is the founder of Share Our Strength, and he wrote an article that was really informative to me in 2013 in the SSIR, which is the Stanford Social Innovation Review. If you don't read it, you should. It's extremely valuable resource. And he shared his story of recognizing the need for system change. He wrote it with his co-author, who founded Kaboom, which was a playground development organization that had national, deep involvement of the communities. They would go build playgrounds. The playgrounds weren't getting used. So Share Our Strength looked at it and said, look, simple solutions to complex problems are not happening. We don't know. Share Our Strength said, we don't know when we're ever done. Are we solving 1% of the problem? We don't know. What's success going to look like? So in 2005, they did extensive research, and they found that there were plenty of existing food programs, but people in poverty and children in school were not accessing them. The problems could be solved if you could access it. They did a complete pivot from being a grant-making intermediary and to designing and leading a national campaign called No Kid Hungry. And it coordinates community organizing that needed to knock down these barriers to accessing existing programs so that kids don't go hungry because of the shame or stigma of being in poverty. So the pivot changed everything for Share Our Strength. He said he needed new strategies, new staff, new skills, experiences, partners. He needed more data, new data. He needed funding, ways of working. But the results have been catalytic. And I'd urge you to read. It's called When Good Is Not Good Enough. So beyond a bolder mission, a critical component to systems change is greater collaboration. Sandy mentioned it, Wendy's mentioned it, our panelists spoke about it. It is absolutely critical to really reaching this system change. When asked recently about the nonprofit, how nonprofits could change, Sir Richard Branson, the founder of Virgin Group, said categorically, more collaborative efforts. We need the collective efforts of countries and companies to step up and play their part, setting strong goals, having clear plans, and openly demonstrating progress. The activation of more flexible forms of funding, such as social enterprise funding, pay for success, social impact bonds, are all helping in this greater cross-sector collaboration. And I think SVPs are uniquely positioned to be the conveners of these collaborative efforts. We bring the expertise from government, from corporates, from the nonprofit side. We bring it together, and we can facilitate the cross-sector collaboration that can lead to true system change. My second point is a little about what we see as technology, because I'm from the Valley, and Wendy would, I'd have to. How it's reinventing the nonprofit sector. We know the internet transformed every industry sector. It's going to become integrated into everything. We saw it at Apple with the digital hub strategy in 2001, and so much has happened in the meantime to make those lessons rebound to all of us. There's a few areas that are really important. One is about scaling impact. What if you could harness the ubiquity of phones, cell phones, and the internet, combine it with plummeting connectivity costs and almost free infrastructure to actually scale impact by incorporating technology in your core programs. One of our SP2 grantees is Medic Mobile, and they provide a communication and support platform for health workers in developing countries. We first met the founder, Josh Nesbitt, shortly after he graduated from Stanford. Planning to be a doctor, he was doing research in Africa, and he realized that what he was best going to do was to create a technology platform that allowed mobile community health workers who were in the community, instead of having to go back and forth to the community health center to check records, he was using SMS texting initially to allow them to check in. They could stay in the field, they could stay with the patients, they could see more patients, check in on the community. He's now used recycled phones and an open source platform, and at this stage he's now reached 8 million, I'm so excited, 8 million people in 23 countries in 5 years, and I think he just turned 30. At SP2, we gave him a $100,000 grant. We really were helping him advise on governance, on customer segmentation. We taught him how to do a net promoter score so he could figure out how to allocate his resources. We helped on figuring out country entry, what points. And by the third year of our $100,000 grant, Josh was awarded a $1.25 million Stoll Entrepreneur Award. So he's taken it to scale. Crowdsourcing. Another way to scale up a nonprofit is to crowdsource your offerings. Wikipedia, which is supported by the nonprofit Wikimedia Foundation, is the best example. They now have 825 million edits on 39 million pages of content. SB2 just made its first social enterprise investment. We actually have done what's called impact investing in a for-profit. And this one's called Necris. It's an edtech startup. It's a for-profit organization which crowdsources industry professionals who are tied to children in school so that they're able to share real work experiences with kids that relate to their classwork. It also crowdsources feedback on school science experiments and things like that so that the students have the engagement from a respected professional in the time they have available to link what they're doing to work, to their schoolwork. So one other thing we've seen is the business models that come out of tech. And you see the cloud computing companies and the SaaS business model like Salesforce and Box, and they've created new opportunities to scale at very low marginal cost. So the SaaS delivery model works really well for nonprofits because it doesn't cost a lot to obtain someone more. One example in the Bay Area is Care Message, which provides a secure cloud-based platform. It encourages interactive conversations between health givers and their patients or groups of patients. Diabetes compliance programs are one of their key ways where they can check in on this just great open source SaaS model. Another tech business model is the online marketplace. And you get an eBay and Airbnb and Uber. So what if you could create an online marketplace for the $5 billion in unused medicines that otherwise are destroyed each year? Perfectly good medicine. How do you get it to the people who are denying themselves medicine because they can't afford it? Serum, which is a Palo Alto nonprofit, It serves as the Match.com for unused medicines. Serum provides a technology platform that allows health facilities like skilled nursing homes and pharmacies to match on a free basis with clinics that serve low-income patients. This is a remarkable one. It currently operates in California, Colorado, and it's in Ohio. So perhaps SVP Cincy could look them up. Sirum, S-I-R-U-M. Another thing technology provides is incredible building blocks, the ease of creating a company. It no longer takes a team of professionals and a big server farm to build a company. So imagine posting a few videos on YouTube of some math lessons that you're trying to help your cousins learn. And imagine it gets traction. And Google's interested and they provide some free hosting, so you spend your time fundraising in order to gather more content for free online videos. With more than 9,000 videos in various topics and more than 50 videos surpassing 1 million views, Khan Academy has created the most cost-effective, scalable education program, and it's because of the YouTube infrastructure. So what does it do for philanthropists, this access to technology? What can we as engaged philanthropists do? One is you really have incredible access to information. You can vet organizations, lots of data available, and the best organizations will reach out and find you in a way that's an actionable call. So you can use online evaluators, GuideStar and one called Great Nonprofits, and their founder just joined SB2, so she's an SB2 partner. They have tools that share information. They're sort of the Yelp, they're the rating agencies for these great nonprofits, huge access to information. It also allows greater access to networks. I mean, we can see models like Kiva.com, DonorsChoose.com that catalyze these small donations and the direct relationship between the funders and the beneficiaries, and we can marvel at the Ice Bucket Challenge. Those viral videos raised $114 million for ALS in 2014. Another one is Giving Tuesday. It's a collective giving movement. It started in 2012. They now reach 40,000 partners in 71 countries. And they have an estimated increase of about 500% in their donations over those years. They have 1.3 million social media mentions and 114 billion global impressions in that scale. However, social media attention does not always translate to donations. A recent study by Blackbaud found that only about 1% of online fundraising occurred through social media, and just 3% of American nonprofits have raised between $10,000 and $25,000 through Facebook, and only 1% have raised $25,000 to $100,000 on Facebook. So the ease of communicating dilutes the message of each one. So it's a challenge, and perhaps we can help our grantees to stand above the crowd with an actionable call for donations. So technology also allows more efficient operations with Eventbrite, MailChimp, Salesforce, Box, SurveyMonkey, as well as PayPal, Network for Good, Razoo, all of the online payment services. Organizations can be practically paperless, and they don't need a huge IT support system. They still need to do the hard work of running their programs and developing it, but the efficiency is built in for the technology. So my third observation on philanthropy is, what's the point of it? Philanthropy is potentially society's most innovative form of capital, but it's not always deployed effectively. Compared to policymakers and business investors, philanthropists can assume more risk. They don't have to get a return. They're not going to be up for election. They can maintain a long-term view, and they can support less popular ideas. Philanthropy provided the funding for the abolitionist movement, suffragettes, labor organizers, citizen rights groups, hospital builders, universities, and schools for the disabled, long before those ideas were validated or popular. But in reality, there's very little risk in philanthropy today. Funders want proven programs. They don't want to pay for the innovation that's required to improve them. And there's a cycle that keeps our nonprofits trapped. This is where I think the SVP model of unrestricted core operating support is so critical, because that's the gap they need to cross. No organization would be successful without an R&D budget. You can't do that. We certainly wouldn't have done that at Apple. We had huge R&D because we wanted to create products that were going to change the world. You can't ask an organization to change the world with no overhead in its, innovation fund in its R&D. And I wonder why these problems are intractable. I just think there's an absence of big bets on innovation. There's a frustration, I feel, with how conservative the funding can be. It's all about risk. I mean, it's my observation, and there's funders like Stephen and Jean Case of the Case Foundation with their Be Fearless campaign, that risk aversion has really shortchanged philanthropy's potential for transformational change. We have to be willing to let profits innovate, and we have to allow the risk of failure that goes with that. One key lesson from my Apple days is the relationship between innovation and risk. As my former boss, Steve, would say, sometimes when you innovate, you make mistakes. It's best to admit them quickly and get on with improving your other innovations. So we need to dream bigger, and we need to act more boldly. We need to encourage the organizations we support to take on more risk in being innovative, and we have to back them up with our resources, our guidance, and our expertise. It's time to rethink these traditional models and experience with a bolder, more collaborative and cross-sector approaches that will truly have transformational effect. The timing could not be better. We are at a historic tipping point. Last year, about $538 billion was donated philanthropically in the US. That's the 5th straight year of increases post-recession. The largest portion of that $538 billion was from individual donors. The greatest wealth transfer in history is about to happen, with tens of trillions, with a T, changing an intergenerational wealth transfer in the second half of the century. Tom Tierney, who's the chairman and founder of Bridgespan, says there will be 8 to 10 times as much wealth for philanthropy in the first half of this century as compared to the last century as a whole. Time has come to get the biggest bang for those bucks. We also know that in 2017, the millennials will surpass the baby boomers as the group having the largest purchasing power in the US. And by 2020, they will be 50% of the workforce. This generation of digital natives, they have grown up with a greater global awareness and a global sense of community, and they have a desire to change the world without regard for traditional silos of corporate, government, nonprofit. They're breaking that mold. So if the baby boomers amongst us can embrace technology, if we can encourage risk and engage the millennials in this innovation effort, we can unleash ourselves from how it's been, I think, to how it might be. So on a final note before Q&A, I said several times, what was my purpose in life? And I'm going to let Steve answer it one last time. We're here to put a dent in the universe. Why else would we even be here? Thank you.
Oh my gosh, you just like feel the power, I just want to change the world. Let's just get on it, okay? Let's do that. All right, so we're running a little bit behind here, but, we've got the CEO with us. You're not going to kick us out, Wendy, right? Wendy, don't kick us out if we're a little bit late here. We're just going to do an expedited Q&A. So let's take 5 to 10 minutes or whatever to get your questions here, and then Jordan's back there with the microphone. Anybody got a question, we'll do that. And then want to bring up one of our investees for SVP Cincinnati and celebrate their check. So, so we'll go ahead. So, is there anybody in the audience who wants to kick off with a question? Craig.
Are you seeing the interest in taking a risk in your area? I mean, we know there's a lack of it here, but are you seeing a movement towards being willing to take that kind of risk?
At the pace it needs to be done, no. Is it, the question, are we seeing that there's not at a pace that needs to really address these issues? Is the conversation becoming more robust? Yes. Is this particular sector well equipped to have that conversation? Yes, because we walk that walk. We provide core operating support at a critical stage in the growth of an organization where they are trying things out. So let's make that message resonate so that we can get more bang for those bucks that we're providing in terms of risk we're taking on our own grantees.
Great. Yes, sir. Right here.
Yes, so I think one of the things I perceive is there's a perception problem when it comes to profit. Because profit for so long as we can see is how much money you're making. And when you talk about this bridge of nonprofit for profit, I kind of see that there's a double bottom line, triple bottom line. But one of the hardest things in philanthropy is how to monetize a hungry kid getting a meal, right? And our society is so heavily structured on money as being the sole measure of profit. So I was kind of wondering what your thoughts might be on how this bridge between nonprofit and for-profits are going to take that level of triple bottom line and somehow bridge it to just the bottom line as it stands right now.
Yeah, some of you that do profit, for-profit and non-profit.
Sure. I mean, and I kind of alluded to this earlier. Profitability is just a tax status. We need to get our heads out of the sand about that and recognize that good businesses, good organizations that provide a real social purpose, and that's where we need to spend our time and energy. I don't know that it makes it any easier, but that's part of why these conversations are important. What we heard today from Nancy and everybody else on the panel reinforces the notion that good takes place in both for-profit and non-profit organizations, and that the fact that there's probably 100 people here tonight that are concerned about that is, I think, a testament to where the momentum is going in the market.
That's great. Great answer. How about one more question? Shel.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the idea of nonprofits collaborating, and my question is, has it been a journey to get nonprofits to share? Did you have to break down any kind of queen bee gatekeeping kind of things to happen?
You guys will appreciate this. It took SB2 about 3+ years to finally fund into collective impact, and our model was Strive Cincinnati. And we watched that model for several years while we tried to figure out amongst ourselves how to get out of our own way amongst the funding community in San Mateo and Santa Clara County. And luckily found incredible leadership in an early education program through the county Board of Education, which took incredible leaders with incredible will, and the funders finally came together. But honestly, we were watching you guys for a long time, wishing we could get that action. So it's not easy. It's very difficult. And in a small community, when so many funders or so many nonprofits are under $1 million, and most of them have less than 30 days cash available, they're all desperate for funding. I mean, they're not a well-funded organization, so it gets really tough if you feel like they're competing for funders. But we have to keep the eye on the bigger prize and really state the bolder mission and hold them accountable for system change.
Thank you so much to the panel and to Nancy Arcino. Really appreciate it. This is good. And we're gonna hang around here a little bit in case you have any more questions, because we had to cut that off. But we'll be cleaning up here. You can help us clean up, and you can also ask some more questions. So as our last thing, I was going to tell you a little bit about Social Venture Partners Cincinnati, but you heard some great testimonials here about what Social Venture Partners is all about. And we are really pleased to present and with all of you here, our newest investee in Cincinnati. And to do that, I'm going to ask our executive director, Lauren, to come on up, and Susan Ingmeyer, who was the one you heard Nancy talk about their investment committee. So Susan has led the search committee for our investee this year. She's going to talk about our recipient. You got the mic there. Okay, good. You're good.
I like to walk around. Anyway, thank you all for staying tonight. We are so honored to recognize Skyward from Northern Kentucky as our next investee. And come on up, Nancy. Skyward, in case you're not familiar with them, has morphed from being Vision 2015 into an actionable program. They are scaling up in 4 areas: education, community vibrancy, jobs, and health and wellness. And our focus area for SVP Cincinnati last year was health and wellness. So we picked Skyward and because of many things, but part of it was the plan they put in place, the ambitious nature of what they want to do. They want to transform Northern Kentucky into one of the healthiest regions in the country. And right now, Northern Kentucky and all of Kentucky, unfortunately, is in the lower quartile on every health measure possible. So we are delighted to welcome Bill Shire, President, Nancy Costello, who's Director of the Health and Wellness Program, which is called Live Well, Northern Kentucky, and then Stephanie Vogel, who I believe is a board member. Is that correct?
Partner, yeah.
Partner. Okay, partner. Anyway, we're delighted to invest $60,000 over 3 years with Skyward, and we will be helping them scale their social innovation.
The Apple product works best.
So before everybody leaves, I would like to see all the SVP partners in the room stand up, wave their hands. You are the people who are making this happen.
That is great. The other thing that I want to do is tell you that our watch this space, because we're just getting ready to kick off our new investee selection process. So if you know any nonprofits or you are a nonprofit, make sure you've all got postcards on there. If you are interested in becoming a partner in Social Venture Partners or becoming, learning more about our investment cycle, let us know. The other thing is, in the summer, we're going to kick off the selection process for our Fast Pitch event, which is a competition for money, for connections, etc., where we coach 8 nonprofits on how to do a marketing pitch. That's a really exciting thing. We'll be looking for investees for that process coming up. Finally, in closing, I want to thank the committee. So where's Robin? There she is. Robin Hill, stand up and turn around. Robin, Lauren, putting this event on. This is heroic effort. So thank you to them and to all of you for coming. Thank you so much for hanging here with us. So we'll be around if anybody has any more questions or anything like that for the panelists or for our new investees. Howard, congratulations.